is I have been putting out episodes recently, and I know that that has been quite a minute now, probably about 6 weeks or more or less. No, probably more. But yeah, um, so there are some changes and stuff like that. So that led to me having to rearrange my schedule, trying to plan around it, and trying to work with the people that I probably want to bring on, how the format's going to be. So it's a lot of works in the background. I'm not necessarily a big social media person, so even that aspect, I'm not sure how well I can get it off. But I think ultimately, between now and probably until I've figured out something, I would like to try to keep in touch. Or trying to keep putting out episodes at least weekly or every 2 weeks. Not putting any strain on myself as yet because I'm trying to build a rhythm. But thinking about it, I've had some ideas over the past couple of weeks, and I've been thinking about dropping episodes in a specific way that you know it it's more bite sized instead of long form. And to be honest, for me, long form is probably 3 hours, or that's long form podcasting. But I think nowadays, with the attention span of people, we'd probably say it's an hour. And so, and I realize it's easy to get past that. It's easy without like looking or watching the time. You realize it's that far. So maybe from here on out, I'll probably go more into trying to get 30-minute clips because you find yourself in the middle of the day sometimes, not even the middle of the day, middle of doing something, and while doing that one specific thing, you realize you have an idea, or you have a thought, or you have a question, and if you don't record that in the moment, it will go away. Well, 9 times out of 10, it will. And I realize that has happened to me quite a few times. So over the past 6 weeks, I've written down whenever a question or a thought comes to my head that I would like to discuss, or I would find myself thinking about. I decided, let me write it down and see what happens. So I think in this specific episode, um, what came to my mind, well, for this specific episode, one of the first thing that came to my mind was the imagination. And I say that as someone who has read The Little Prince. And if you haven't as yet, I mean, it's not a long book, but it just had some interesting perspectives. And I wish I could remember right now what the experience I was having in that moment that made me think, like, why do we have to fix ourselves to a path or lead our imagination to limit our imagination to one specific path when we get to a certain age, and the factors that lead to it. So I found myself thinking about that for probably, I don't know, a minute and a half, and that's when I decided to write it down and make note of it. But I mean, probably longer than that. No thinking back. But when I wrote that down, I felt good, and I say that meaning that I felt like, oh, yeah, this could be something that I do. This is something that I could put out. This is something that I could share. Singular, in a singular setting, or with, you know, other guests and stuff to have a discussion about it. But I mean, ultimately, if I can, if I can't, I still have to push ahead. So one of the things was that I was thinking to myself, I'm like, when I was probably, I don't know, seven, between 7 and maybe 12, 13, 15, between that age range, I think I thought more creatively. I think I went through things way more creatively. I went through processes way more creatively. I would see something and try to figure it out in a more creative way. And sometimes, and this is where the hot take comes in, is that no, I think that the school system, or structured learning, let me use that, structured learning, has caused us to lose that level of imagination. You know, one specific example I can go to is math. You know, if someone arrives at the correct answer, I think one of the biggest concern is how to get there. And I mean, I get the because some of these things are structured as it is, but I think sometimes, say for example, I was supposed to divide 3 by 3 and I get one, but then I found a specific way by, I don't know, multiplying it by itself, and then when I get nine, I say nine. You do 3 times 3 twice and divide it, and you get nine. Nine divided by nine, and you get one. You know, you still get the same answer. You still get to the same answer, and I feel like teachers, probably in school, parents, guardians, people who are, responsible for growing the youth or even just leading the youth more or less should kind of reward that because I do think it's kind of cool. Now, of course, I think, knock on wood, if I have a, well, no, not now, knock on wood, when I have a child, I would want my child to be able to think out of the box, even if they do they do the working out not as it should be, but I think I would lead them back to working it out correctly, but point out that, I think you were creative in thinking about this, thinking about approaching it from this way or approaching it from that way, and I think this kills a lot of natural, that scientific creativity that people have. So it's like in high school, I remember one specific guy, um, Nicholas. I don't know what Nicholas does with his life now, but this kid was literally like in the middle of class, not paying attention to class itself, like what was being taught in class, but he was actually like drawing rockets and stuff, and actually like, writing the materials that's needed and stuff like that, and he was always looked at as brilliant, like all the teachers or all the kids would be like, well, I mean, there are going to be kids who think he's weird because he's not the norm, and that's also another aspect of imagination that get killed. But let me just finish this point with Nicholas. So yeah, Nicholas was thinking about things real abstract. Like I would see him, like I think I was sitting close to Nicholas, and he would have drawings, and he would speak in a specific way, and he would have a specific scientific reasoning behind things. And I think he was also reading books beyond his years, like probably things like he was probably a mini Neil deGrasse Tyson, probably a Jamaican Neil deGrasse Tyson, and he never got that opportunity, at least last time I checked or last time I've heard about him, to do any of that. You know, I hope Nicholas is good, so wherever he is in the world now. But no, it's that was something that every time I think about the fact that, how the education system works, does it really benefit the world and the kid themselves? Because I remember, like, as I said, Nicholas was like, he was doing that. The teachers would probably be like, take away his books or tell him that he can't do that in class. When for him, mentally, that was him. Like, I'm talking, he was drawing, like he's doing Elon Musk type of things. He was suggesting those things, more or less. You know what I mean? And yeah, we they kind of killed that, you know. That I find is tough. And then added to the context of the society that you grew up in. So, growing up in Jamaica, I feel like now seeing other cultures, and I know in Jamaica they do have a lot of people with individuality that's not controlled, but the percentage of people who would feel like weirdos and stop themselves from doing the weirdo thing in high school or in university or in primary school, I think that number has been seriously limited because you want to fit in. You don't want to be bullied. You don't want to be looked at as the weird one. And I feel like that was a lot of pressure. I feel like in Jamaica we do have creatives, but they don't get the attention sometimes, as they should. Like the other day, I was looking at one of my friends, Jake, because he's been on a couple episodes before. His Instagram, you can go follow him, Jake Ruben, on Instagram, and he recently did a really good collab with Rizla and Lovers FC. Amazing jerseys and even just a shoe. Anyways, let me not get distracted. No, but for me, it's like I saw him post something with a girl that actually makes pre-made braided designs for your hair. So like you do it as a sewing, and I'm like, that's a level of creativity that, you see people like get into that outside, and sometimes it's like the things that we decide to take into our culture. I don't know. I'm thinking no to myself. Another question: is it because it's an island where we don't get as much as we have TV and we have the internet now and stuff like that? We tailor ourselves down to that. Like so, it's still like within the island, the things that we can do, the things that we can have. Who is the cool person? And then we try to stay within that type of realm. So like also if it's a celebrity now that's singing a specific song and he dresses a specific way or he has a certain body type or she has a certain body type, people gravitate towards it. And I can't say that, I'm actually saying that I've fell victim for that. Like, probably doing a podcast by myself, probably that was something I thought of years ago. I never made a step to it because it would be weird. No one was listening to it. I remember my dad showing me the RSS feed and stuff like that. And I'm talking like before podcast was a platform like this, around even before Bill Simmons starts. I think I was in oof, probably just starting university, finishing community college. And it's like, yo, there are things that just limit us from putting our true selves out there. The things that we genuinely like. And it's just something that came to my head, man. And it's like, there is a period with everything that you try to. So now being in a different culture, I'll probably, when you're in Rome, you do what Romans do. So I see that they probably like eating a salad after eating the main course. I think they do that in Italy and sometime in the south of Spain. They do that, but you look and you be like, what? But you're here and you're learning. Is there a benefit if you eat it after and you feel crappy or you feel good? There are different theories behind it, but I get that part of the adaptation, but also it's like, yeah, all right. Imagine no, I just want to eat my salad first because that makes me feel good. And sometimes it takes a person who doesn't care. And it's not that they don't care. It's just that they is it does not or do not care. I mean, yeah, I don't mind that part. That'll probably have a lot of these going. I feel like that's the next thing. I want to do the podcast like this. You know what I mean? Like, if there's some curse words or something real offensive, then probably edit it or whatever it is. But I also like the bit of edginess it can have. So it's like, yo, I'm literally telling you, this is my mind, no, working, and it's like you see it segmented into different aspects because it was supposed to be just focused on do we kill our imagination as we grow? You know, which I said, yeah, I do believe we kill it, and it's quite sad. It's just like what happens with babies, like growing up, baby can touch his toe. Like baby can touch his toe, baby can put his feet or her feet wherever they want, and over time, like I can't touch my toenail. And you know why? Because I don't practice it. I don't work on that muscle. And I think the imagination that we had when we were probably young, we dulled it. We dulled it to one, fit into society, because well that's the only thing we did it to fit into society, to feel normal, to feel like we're okay, to feel like we're one of the crew, when I think the beauty of the world is that we are all different. We should all be different parts of the circle, you know. And yeah, I feel like you just have to do your thing, man. And I hope whenever I do have kids, I hope if you, whoever's listening, have kids, they understand that there is there is an aspect to it. Of course, you don't tell your kid, "Hey, don't go to school, don't pay attention in class, don't get straight A's." But if you see that your child have that natural curiosity, which I think every single child has, and it can lead into something, let them do it. Like, and sometimes there is a little aspect of the influence around it. So it's like I grew up loving cricket. Well, sports. I grew up loving sports, but cricket was one of the sports that my dad would watch. So that was the sports I was more inclined to want to play. You know what I mean? So you see, those things have influence on the kids too. So you know, when it comes to that and the level of imagination that you put into the level of imagination you allow your kid to explore, I think don't try to limit it, especially if it goes into an interesting direction. Like I believe within myself that everyone has their talents, their little things that they can do, the bips and bops, and as fascinating as that is, I feel like we don't give it enough. And we see it happen so many times because we see designers come out of nowhere with something crazy. And you're like, yo, what? Like, remember the Yeezy? Like, the Yeezys, as much as Kanye has been off the rockers now, but that was a genius. As a matter of fact, Kanye is one of those examples of someone who, as a kid, never really grew up out of it. And you can look at it both ways because you have someone like Kanye who never went to school, as in he went to school for it, but he was always just into it. Like his whole drive was behind that, which is fascinating. But then you have his counterpart slash enemy, frenemy, I don't know, Virgil Abloh, who rest in peace, who went to school, studied it, and created a framework. But then he was also able to put his creativity in it. Granted, I'm speaking about a field that does thrive on creativity, but it's still something that I feel like in some settings we don't give room for that, man. We don't give room for that. And and I know once again my brain goes somewhere else and I'm thinking about Terrence Howard and his whole theories that he has brought to the Joe Rogan show, to the world in general, like his perspectives on the periodic table, how time really moves, how the earth moves and stuff like that, different type of minerals and things being developed. And I think to myself, and I'm like, yo, it doesn't have to be right 100%, but you can see that there's some, like, he probably had that, that thing in his head, and also the family who probably allowed him to push it. Because, I mean, up until, up until I would say probably, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, no, not 2 weeks ago, up until last year, I did not know that this guy was capable of knowing some of the concepts and theories that he shared. I know Neil deGrasse and there's another scientist or astrophysicist that actually kind of had a conversation with him and tried to also give him feedback and stuff like that. But it's like there are people who are like that, and imagine if he was, because a part of science is pushing it. He's pushing that limit, which he's doing. He's saying, yo, 1 plus 1 does not have to equal 2. And as simple as it is, it can equal something else. So we created it. Someone created what 1 is, someone created what 2 is, what the numbers are, and we can create our own. Just like someone creating their own language. I know how crazy it sounds or how awkward it sounds, but there's value in that, and I feel like everyone can learn from it. Everyone can try to do something, at least for 5 minutes a day, that they want to do, and they have to sit and think with themselves, like, what is it that I genuinely want to do? And of course, I'm not talking anything evil or something that will take lives, or I mean, if you want to swim deep waters, yes, you can, but you die from encountering a shark or whatever it is that's under the water. But if that's your way of doing that, like feeling that, you know, this is my thing, I think you should try it. And even if it's 1 minute, 2 minute, 3 minute, you know, you do it. It's like, even though sometimes I struggle, because I remember at one point in time I needed to be a music producer. Like, that was my favorite part of music. I love music in general, but I really love production, because both in Jamaica you could see that one song being produced can go across so many different genres, more or less. And when I say genres, I mean, of course, it might still stay in dancehall or reggae, but there was also, like, you'd have Elaine go on a rhythm and sing, or Tessa and Tommy, you'd have them sing on a rhythm, but then that same rhythm, you'll hear Vibes Cartel, Wayne Marshall, and you're like, yo, you know how fascinating it is to make one product that can transition through multiple genres. And over time, you see that even coming to fruition, more or less, because there are a lot of collaborations done, especially more recently too. I think, especially one with older music and two across genres. Beyonce doing her album a specific way. Who was it that was rapping that no one thought could rap? I can't even remember now. But yeah, so back to what I was saying. I thought I was going to be a music producer. I thought, I felt it naturally. I think one of my biggest I think Fire really got me there when I was like, he could use songs that are regular songs to put into music, and then over time, yeah, I probably I probably could have, but what one I was not happy to say it. Like, this is probably the first time I've said this publicly in the way I've said it. As in, there are other things that I wanted to be, and I mean, over these question days, or these question episodes, or these random thoughts, um, I'll probably address it. But this was one of them that I was like, 100% I'm going to be that. And we see how it played out. I'm not one, and to be honest, I still dibble and dabble. I still try to do the sound for this podcast, and even sometimes the music that you hear in the intro is me, or songs in the outro. I mean, I like the aspects of it. I'm just probably not good at it, or probably did not, as I said, work that muscle where I had the creativity and I could make a whole new song. Because I think even the other day I was listening to Vince Staple talk to Kevin Hart, and he said it. He was like, if you find the right BPM, because everyone probably sounds a specific way on a certain, you know, beat, a certain tone, a certain key. So if you find that one for yourself, because there are a million keys, but the thing is, no one you can go the Mozart route and do the classical thing, or you can just find it. And sometimes you find it and sometimes it works. Are the artists know that exists and found their key, and not bringing a new song but sounding like someone from the past? Are they wrong for it? I think not. You know. But also, wouldn't it be nice if every time, like, I don't even listen to this guy a lot, but every now and then, if I hear the Babytron guy, I laugh. I listen to it and I'm entertained, because it's like, if you break down how the okay, completely sound offbeat to me, but the lyrics are sometimes quirky, good, sharp, putting in words and twisting words and stuff like that. So, I mean, like, that for me is the beauty of it all. So yeah, yeah. So I say this to say that's the end of the episode. No, I mean, it is the end of the episode, but if you listen, I really appreciate it. And I'll try to do this more often, because it's really quick, sharp, and I think it gets to the point. And, maybe tomorrow I'll have another thought, or maybe I won't have another thought in the next 6 weeks. But I'm here, you're there, we're all here on the outsiders. See you next time.